story makers, and welcome back to the Puffin Library and back to school. My name is Rosie Tells Tales, and this September, Puffin is setting you a series of back to school missions inspired by 3 stories created by the awesome authors and illustrators that you are about to meet. But first, some of you have been taking part in the Summer Reading Challenge, and this year's theme was Gadgeteers. So, can you match any of these inventions to the stories that they belong to? Don't forget, your Story Maker mission packs can be downloaded on the Puffin School's website with all of the classroom challenges, games and activities for you to enjoy after the show. Teachers, show us how your class is taking part by tweeting at Puffin Books. Coming up, we are meeting author Lee Newbery, who's going to introduce us to the Last Firefox, so that you can create your own mythical creatures. And we're going to play the Pebble Game. And it's pencils at the ready, because we're going to be drawing along with Olaf Falafel, creator of the book Trixie Pickle, Art Avenger. Olaf is going to turn us all into Art Avengers. How cool is that? But first, it's time to invite author Sharna Jackson into the Puffin Library. In Sharna's book, The Good Turn, Josephine, aged 11, gets inspired to create her own community group called the Copsies. Their aim is to create change and do good, all whilst having amazing adventures.
Hi Story Makers, I'm Sharna, and in The Good Turn you meet 3 friends, Josie, Wesley and Margot, who follow their curiosity on an adventurous quest. How curious are you? Let's find out. A. I know what I need to know when I need to know it. B. I'm definitely nosy. Snooping helps with my stories. C. Especially so. I love facts. If you're A, you're well like Wesley, who's really curious but doesn't have much time. If you're B, you're much like Margot, who's always looking for inspiration for her tall tales. And if you're C, well, you're just like Josie. Our Josephine is a super Googler. She is researching all the time. And one evening when she is searching about the history of her name, she comes across somebody called Josephine Holloway, a person who really existed. And in the 1940s and 50s, she started a scout troop for black girls in Tennessee. It was a really difficult time to do this, and so Josephine Holloway is now super celebrated in the scouting movement and even has a camp named after her, Camp Holloway. I love writing about children who are doing smart and clever and kind things, who are doing things in their community that make a change. And that's what happens in The Good Turn. In The Good Turn, Josephine starts her own community group, the Copsies, named after the cul-de-sac that she lives in with her friends and neighbours, Margot and Wesley. And now they have a code, the Copsy Code, that they live by. Wow, if you want to be honorary members of the Copsies, let's recite their code. The Copsy Code. I swear I will do my best to love others and myself naturally. To ask, what would the Josephines do when things get way too much? To do good things and to always keep the Copsy Code. And always keep to the Copsy Code.
So Sharna, what is it going to be like for us to be a Copsy?
Oh, it's epic fun being a Copsy, really good fun. So you're going around your town, you're doing nice little things for everybody, but while you're doing it, you're also earning badges.
I love a badge, tell me more.
Oh, I love badges, me too. So much so that every chapter in The Good Turn is named after a badge the Copsies can earn.
What have we got? Give us some teasers.
Oh, well, we've got thinking, making, adventuring, scamming.
That's a lot of words that end in ing.
Lots of words that end in ing, but I have to confess, scamming might not be one of our badges.
You scammed me!
Basically, yeah.
So what will you share with us about what happens in the story, The Good Turn?
Well, The Good Turn is all about curiosity and where it leads to. So Josephine started by Googling and she goes on an epic adventure. And I'm really curious, like Josie as well. And I think this curiosity can lead to really nice things happening in our communities. Because once you start understanding what some people go through, we can start supporting people, supporting them more and being really helpful. So I think that stories really have the opportunity to make people curious and make good change for social good.
Stories create such empathy, they have such power, and our COPSIes, our honorary COPSIes, are going to be sent their own progress reward chart. So you can work towards your own badges. So colour along the Puffin patterns to recognise your progress this term and choose the badges that you want to work towards. We have some suggestions. Maybe you choose recycling, exercising, maybe discovering or adventuring. What are you going to choose first, Sharna?
Well, I think I'm going to go for adventuring, definitely, and then I'll follow that up with a little bit of writing.
I like that. I'm going to pick adventuring. I need more adventure. And then I'm going to choose my own creating. It's not just stories that can create change. Olaf Falafel is going to show us how art can too. In Trixie Pickle, Art Avenger, Trixie uses art to right wrongs at her school. Let's find out how.
Hello there, my name is Olaf Falafel and I'm an author and an illustrator, and I want to share with you my new book. It is called Trixie Pickle, Art Avenger, and it's all about this girl Trixie. She becomes a bit of an art superhero. Now, she never used to like art. In fact, she got a present on her birthday that she thought was a bit rubbish, but it turned out to be one of the coolest things she's ever had. It was a trip to an art exhibition, and it really inspired her to become the Art Avenger. Now, I love books that have got loads of illustrations, loads of comics in, books like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and I've been inspired by things like that to make this, and I filled it with loads of drawings myself. And a lot of people ask me, where do I get the ideas that go into these books? And I tell them, I steal them. Yeah, that's right, I nick them from my own two children. They come home from school, and instead of saying, oh, how was your day? What did you get up to? I say, what was the funniest thing that happened at school? And I write down the funniest thing that happened in their day at school, and I try and sneak them into my books. Now, another thing about this book, it is filled with loads of cool artist fact files about different artists. Some of them you might know about, some of them you may not know about. One of them is called Leonardo da Vinci, and even if you have not heard of Leonardo da Vinci, I reckon you might know this picture, the Mona Lisa. And a fact about Leonardo da Vinci that you probably don't know, he was ambidextrous. What that means is he could use his right hand and his left hand equally well. I'm not sure whether I'm ambidextrous, and I don't know whether you are either, so I thought we could take the ambidextrous challenge. So I have just drawn with my right hand, because I think that's my strongest hand, a bum-faced snail here. That is a snail with a bum for a face. That's something that Trixie draws in the book. And now what I'm going to do is swap the pen into my left hand, which I don't use to draw with that much, and I'm going to try and draw another bum-faced snail here. Good luck, let's see how it goes. Right, first I'm going to draw the shell. Oh, it's wobbly. And now the neck. Bum face. I mean, it's not too bad. This is where it's going to be tricky, these antenna things. Yeah, that's wobbly. And the next one, I mean, it's a bit like the one with my right hand, but a lot more wobbly. Let me do some dots for the eyes. I'm not even going to try and write bum-faced snail, but that's my bum-faced snail with my left hand. Now, I think they both need a name. I'm going to use my right hand to write this one, and he's going to be called Frank, I think. There we go, so Frank. And I'm going to name this one with my left hand. It's a wobbly one, so I'm going to give it a W name. I think I'm going to call him Walter. W, A, oh dear, L, T, E, and an R. So we've got Frank with my right hand and Wobbly Walter with my left. So that answers the question whether I'm ambidextrous or not. Another big question around Leonardo da Vinci and his painting the Mona Lisa is whether or not she is smiling. Is she happy? Is she sad? Is she a little bit confused? What expression is that really? I've got my own theory. I think possibly she has just let out a really squeaky fart, and that face of hers is a mixture of embarrassment and relief. Now, another artist, a street artist called Banksy, he had a go at answering that question, and he came up with this. And I think you can see that he's definitely voted for happy. It'd be interesting to see what your class think. Now, if you think that Mona Lisa is a little bit kind of sad and not really that happy, I think you should all vote with your thumbs down. And if you think she's actually quite happy, I think you should vote with your thumbs up. So let's have a quick vote now.
Trixie Pickle was inspired by how Banksy uses art to stick up for people. And now, Olaf is going to transform us all into art avengers with a special draw-along mission. If you are ready, put your pencils in the sky and say, I.
That's right, Banksy is the artist that Trixie is influenced by the most, and Banksy likes to create these rats and mice that are doing all sorts of different things, and you can see some of them that I have drawn in a Banksy style on the front of this book. You've got one here that is holding a little placard and it says, "Don't buy this book." Well, ignore that, please do buy this book. I think you'll really like it. But I thought it would be quite cool if we made our own Banksy style mice holding up a little placard, and then we could all be our Avengers too. Okay, let's get going. So to start with, I am going to draw the head of my Banksy mouse, and the head of the mouse is a big triangle like this. And then I'm going to draw one of his ears, which is a circle. And the other one is a circle that is a bit smaller because it's at the back. I'll do the nose. Now the eye is another circle, lots of circles, with a dot in the middle. And then there's this shape that looks like this. And you'll see what that is when I come to colour the mouse in. The mouse's body is a big capital letter D, like so. And I'm going to draw a little mouse foot here. I'm going to draw his tail wiggling out at the back there. Oh, and I'll draw a little curve where his leg is. And again, this is a bit that I'm not going to colour in when I colour it. Now my mouse is going to be holding up a placard, like the kind of thing that you get when you're at a protest. I'll do that here, and I'll do the top of the handle, and I'll do half of the bottom of the handle, and then I'll draw his little mouse hand. So 3 little mice fingers there, 1, 2, 3, and perhaps a little mouse thumb. And then I'll connect his arm up. And I think I will draw this little mouse hand doing a thumbs up. So there's a thumb, and then 1, 2, 3 mouse fingers. And I'll curve this arm back round. Now I'm going to colour in. I might use a bigger pen for the colouring in. I'm going to colour in these 2 ears, his face, apart from that bit that I left. And I'm going to colour in his body. And then finally, I'm going to put a message into the mouse's placard, and it's going to be something that the mouse will stand up for. I know, I've got a good thing to write. I'm going to write kindness. I'm going to write kindness costs nothing, because in the book, Trixie's actually quite kind and she sticks up for people in her class. In fact, it'll be interesting to know what you guys are going to stick up for in your school. What are you going to put in your placards? So here we go. Kindness costs nothing. Kindness. I keep saying kindness. Kindness costs nothing. And because Trixie is also a little bit funny, I'm going to put in brackets. Unlike cheese. Oh, nearly run out of room there. Just got in there. And there you have it, my Banksy-style mouse with a very kind placard.
There are lots more Art Avenger missions for you to complete in your Story Maker mission packs. Take the Ambidextrous Challenge and see if you can increase your score. Put your empathy and artistic skills to the test in the mysterious Mona Lisa mission, and fill your school with your Art Avenger creations and Banksy mice. We can't wait to see what you create. From bum-faced snails and Banksy mice to a fox, but no ordinary fox. Author Lee Newbery is going to introduce us to the Last Firefox.
Chapter 5. For a second, I think I must have bumped my head, because when I look up from the ground, there's a boy standing over me, dressed in these weird clothes. Weirder still, he's carrying an orange puppy. Definitely must have bumped my head. I try to blink him away, but he doesn't fade. Then he starts talking, and I start to suspect he's not a side effect of my bumped head after all. He's wearing a brown fur coat that rises and falls rapidly on his shoulders as he pants. He's been running. He keeps glancing over his shoulder towards the ivy, as if he's worried about being followed. Who are you? I ask, clambering to my feet. Nobody, he insists. He glances at the puppy in his arms, then looks me up and down. You're a bit small, but you'll have to do. Here, hold him. And just like that, I have a puppy in my arms. It's a chubby little thing, all big ears and cheese puff orange fur, which is strangely warm. It's like hugging a hot water bottle. And that's when I realise this puppy has a long, bushy tail and 2 pointy ears. In fact, there's something decidedly unpuppyish about it. It's a fox, I exclaim, holding it back out to nobody. The cub dangles between us and lets out a little whine. Hey, I don't want it. Nobody stands up straight, his expression severe. It's a he. His name is Firetail, and don't hold him like that. Keep him close to you. I stare dumbly down at the cub, before clutching him to my chest so that his heart beats rapidly against mine. Why is he called Firetail? I'm cut off by a piercing howl. It turns the air cold and makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end, and is coming from behind the ivy. Now that I'm looking closely, I can see fragments of darkness through the greenery. There's no wall there at all. It's a doorway. The stranger's eyes widen in fear. You're about to find out. Put him down, hurry! I frown and lower the cub to the ground, and through the ivy, the howling stops abruptly. The cub's hackles rise, a growl rumbling in his belly. Then, unbelievably, his fur starts shimmering. He glows brighter and brighter, and I feel a prickle of heat on my skin. It's almost like he's on. Get back! The boy shouts, shielding his face, but it's too late. The cub erupts on the spot, an orb of angry fire bursting from his body. I leap back, the flames so bright that I can barely look at them. After a few seconds, I peer through my fingers. The flames have mostly died down, and there's the cub, still standing in a ball of orange fire, completely unscathed and snarling at the ivy. I can't believe what I'm seeing. Maybe I did bump my head. That happens when he's angry or scared or excited, the boy says hurriedly, and sometimes when he's hungry. Now I really have to go. I'll be back to pick him up in 2 days. What? I exclaim. You can't leave him here with me. What is he? Who are you? And what on earth is going on here? The boy peers through the ivy, then back at me, his eyes wide with fear. There's no time to explain. The Grendelock is hot on my trail, and I really have to lead it away or it'll follow me through and we'll all be done for. The what? The boy groans. Through there, he says, pointing over his shoulder at the ivy, is a place called Fargon, a fantastical place where the giant emperor rats can eat you for breakfast, and the sky whales roost in the cloud. I got here using this. He pulls out an amber stone with a swirl painted on it. It's a seal stone. This one belongs to the king, or at least it did before I took it. But we don't want him to find out about this gateway because he's the one who's after him. He nods his head at the cub. The little fox has crawled between his legs and is nervously peering round them. His fur still looks fiery, but he's calmed down a lot. Why? The boy's expression darkens. Firefoxes have been kept by the royal family in Fargon for centuries, but through neglect and carelessness, they started to die out. Hello story makers, my name is Lee Newbery and I am the author of The Last Firefox. I wrote this book to show everyone that it's possible to achieve whatever it is you set your mind to, even if that thing might seem a little bit scary. I don't know about you guys, but when I was in school, I was often too scared to put my hand up to answer questions in class. I never thought I'd be able to write a book, let alone get it published, or talk to you guys about it. But then I discovered my inner fire, and I decided to write a book about a character that's completely made out of fire. Now, I don't know if anybody has heard of a little something called Pokemon, but I was absolutely obsessed with Pokemon when I was younger. So much so that I used to love making up my own magical creatures and my own Pokemon in my spare time. And I remember one evening I sat down and I imagined a fox cub that was made out of magical fire. And that's how I came up with the idea for the Firefox. Now, if anybody else out there wants to have a go at making up their own magical creatures, I would recommend starting with an ordinary animal that we share the planet with today and trying to figure out how you can make that animal magical. So for example, you could have a reindeer and maybe its antlers can generate lightning bolts. Speaking of making things up, does anybody else out there enjoy making things up with their friends? Friendship is a big theme in The Last Firefox, and when Charlie and his friends aren't too busy defeating monsters or looking after the Last Firefox, they play a made-up Pebble Game. The objective of the Pebble Game is to paint a pebble, hide it in a secret location, and make up a riddle that gives your friends a clue as to its whereabouts. I've got a pebble here, and I'm going to hide it right about here. Hey Rosie, why don't you and the story makers try playing the Pebble Game in the Puffin library?
Thanks, Lee. Now it's time to play the Pebble Game. Our Puffin authors and illustrators have painted a pebble with a character that they think has lots of inner fire, and they've hidden it here somewhere in the Puffin library. All we need to do to find it is solve their riddles.
My pebble is called Kevin, and he's very, very big, so I needed a giant place to hide him. Now, I thought, what better place than somewhere where you would normally keep secrets? Or I could just be kidding.
So, what did he say? Kevin? Any characters called Kevin? No. Somewhere big? So there's a giant pencil, can't be little bad man, and somewhere you keep secrets. Hang on. He could be kidding. You must be Kevin. Of course, Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
I've chosen detectives too. Now here's a clue. I wonder if you can find where I've planted the evidence in the Puffin library.
She's chosen a detective. Hang on, Rockstar Detectives? No, she didn't mention a rock star. What she said was, I wonder if you know where I planted the evidence. And this one is Murder Most and Ladylike. Why not play the Pebble Game at school? Choose your character, design your pebble, include a marking from the key, and then write a riddle that your friends can follow to find it. For more inspiration on writing and solving riddles, check out Puffin's podcast, Mission Imagination. All of today's games and activities are in your Story Maker mission packs, downloadable from the Puffin School's website. Share your missions with us all throughout September by tagging @PuffinBooks or emailing pictures to puffinschools@penguinrandomhouse.co.uk with Storymakers Show in the subject line. That is 3 more books for your Story Maker shelves. Let's say a big thank you to our fellow story makers. Thank you, Sharna, Olaf, and Lee. And thank you, story makers. Catch an air high five. We will see you here in the Puffin Library in December for your Story Maker Festive Special, with more exciting guests and missions for you to complete. Have a great start to the new school year, and remember to keep reading and sharing stories to spark your imagination.